mind. She went to my mind. So I'm going to tell you guys something about this topic. Are we live now?
Yes.
Yes, we're live as far.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think so. It looks like
Yeah.
custom live
Good
speaking
afternoon,
on.
Nkosi Talk Shows family. It's Nomsa here at Nkosi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. So with me today, I'm with the Carol Ann Cooper and Shireen Lovegrove. How are you, ladies?
Yeah, very well, thank you. And
Very good,
yourself?
thank you. And you?
I am very well, thank you.
Good.
So the topic today is power provision and partnership when she earns more. So I said, guys, I'm going to tell you guys about this topic. So yesterday I found this topic and Carol Ann sent me the same topic and I looked at it and I was like, it should been into my mind, this woman. But the topic, I just found it. I wasn't going to use it for today. I just put it on the side, like I'm going to use it another day. And then she sent it back to me.
I sent it to you, so like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, because it out of because from that talk we did answering those questions on Sunday. I just was guided to have a look at the questions and thought, well, maybe there's something we could pick up on here, and so I'll probably keep going back and picking up some of them over time. But that one just jumped out at me. And the question was, how should a relationship be handled when the woman earns more money to avoid being taken advantage of? And then I just sort of put that into chat and asked for some titles just to sort of see, and that's the one I chose. So it is, it's exploring that dynamic, because it is something that happens now. More and more women are possibly, earning more than their partner, or they're perhaps the main breadwinner. So things are changing. So it's how do you handle that, and what are the aspects? So that's really where it came from. So yeah, we were on the same wavelength. It's clearly a question that the universe is wanting more answers to, or more discussion, and more, for more audience, different audience, or for more people to hear. So
And on
that's where it came
Father's
from.
Day as well, they were discussing about this topic as well.
Yeah.
When she earns more, when the
Mm.
woman earns more money. What do you think about it, Shireen?
I think it's a really interesting topic. Very interesting. Um, I suppose what I heard there, Carol Ann, when you read out the question was, how does to avoid being taken advantage of? That's what I heard at the end. And that sort of kind of jumped up. And I thought, well, that's really interesting,
Mm.
because traditionally men have been the providers, right? Men have been
Yeah.
the providers. And we also know from a, it's more from a traditional thing, but the idea that there is, and we also know that men tended to earn bigger salaries. So it meant that men were always going to be the ones that are going to be doing that form of sharing from top down in that sort of way. And that also meant that the patriarchy, there was a level of control within that environment. And also that there was also a level where women's salaries, even if they earned a salary, didn't necessarily have to share it.
Mm.
So you've got that too. So the money was hers. It's interesting that that was something that someone was doing the U-turn. How many men might feel they've been taken advantage of?
Mm.
It's just, it was a curious flip around,
Yeah.
just thinking, oh, well, what would, most of the time we expect men to pay for meals, if in some ways, and I know that they're there. There are a lot of things by tradition that we have of roles for men. So how does that work then for roles for women? How does that work, and how do we navigate that? And how do we navigate it in a sense the same way that a man would, in a way, provide for their family and not think two
Mm.
bits about it, because that's what their expectation is. So how does that fit for women when the role is reversed? So
Yeah.
that was what was kind of running for me, and about how that might impact relationships, how that might cause either a freedom within a relationship or a constriction. So those were the things that were immediate in my immediate mind. So we could go any of those routes.
Yep.
I think they're all very valuable, and there is no right answer,
No.
but there is really about the relationship to money and the relationship to the person you're relating to, right? Those expectations that we have about money and the use of money within a family and within our personal use. So yeah, hot
Oh,
topic. Hot topic.
Yeah, I think for me, like what you guys have said, for me, I would say the world is changed, is moving so fast.
Mm,
Um, I know that a man has to feel he's a provider, but a woman is also a provider. But if a woman earns more money, for me, I find it really attractive when a man stays at home to look after his children if they
mm,
earn less money, if a woman earns money to stay at work, because in that way, it's not about competition. It's not about who provides for who provides. As long as you have a joint account, you cannot have a joint account and sit down and really talk about this, about the intentions and the common sense that, okay, she earns more money, stay at home, or if the husband is earning less. There's a guy, actually, I went to him and I said, you always drop we always chat and laugh. I said to him, you always drop the kids at school and your missus is at work, because she drops them sometimes as well when she's off. And he was like, yeah, Nomsa, I had to be a full-time dad. I have my business, but I'm a full-time dad. I look after the kids. It's my priority. And I was like, I have to say this to you, that actually, thank you for doing that. I'm a woman, but I have to be grateful to see a dad stepping up and say,
mm,
I'm going to be a stay-at-home, not being ashamed of it, because the people, they don't understand the power of unity and the power of love. It does not matter whether a man earns less or a woman earns less. It's all about we are in this together. Our goals aligns with our journey, the intentions. Carol Anna says, not making things wrong, just making things right. For me, that's how I say it. This
mm.
who earns that money, goes to go to the bin, just live a life to the fullest.
yeah, it's great because it is about the financial contribution. Relationship is not just about that, and it's been made about that, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yes.
right. The roles have been defined, and it's almost as if they're set in stone and they can never change. Well, that's being chipped away at a lot now, in this day and age. And even though there are some that probably still feel encased in that tradition and that expectation, it is about how do you break through that? How do you handle it when you find yourself that the woman is earning more? And I know at one point I was earning more than my ex-husband was. And I know he found it hard to deal with, but it wasn't a case of I felt he was taking advantage of me because I was earning more. All our money went into the same melting pot, and I think that's what you're saying, Namsa. You have a joint account, you sit down and you work out where the money's going and, uh, what needs to be paid for. And it's not a case of it's his or hers, it's
Yeah.
ours.
Yeah.
It all comes in together. And I think if you go in with that mindset as a woman of, well, I'm earning more than him and, I'm frightened of being taken advantage of, then I would look to, well, what's going on
Mm.
there for me as a woman to
Mm,
have that mindset? Because firstly, I think, well, where have I taken advantage of someone else? Because it's in your consciousness.
mm,
And where else have perhaps, I've been taken advantage of? It's the sort of the two prongs. But if you're bringing that to the relationship, then you need to heal that way of thinking and that way of being. Because they can only take advantage of you if that energy is there.
Yeah.
And so it's about sitting down, it's bringing it all together, and also having a conversation and being honest to say, well, this is how I'm feeling. I don't want to feel taken advantage of. So think, well, how could you talk about the money together so that you would feel that you're not being taken advantage of? Again, it's that communal pot and sharing it out, make sure the bills are covered, and maybe you get some, it's for you to work out together how you want it to work. But it is a case of, I love this quote, in a thriving relationship, success is not his or hers, it's ours. And that's what we've been saying. So again, if to come into a relationship with that sense of, well, I don't want to be taken advantage of, if the foot, we're on the other shoe, the shoe is on the other foot, so to speak, that's what it is, isn't it? And your partner, your husband was earning more money, would you take advantage of him because of that? So do be aware if that's in there, then maybe you might do that yourself. So yeah, I'd certainly look at that. And I think that is, when I saw that question, that was something that jumped out at me and I didn't feel had got addressed or even acknowledged at the time. So I'm glad you picked up on it, Shireen, as well, because I think that is really important frame of mind to work on.
Yeah, I think it's a pivotal thing because money is one of these things that that often it brings trouble within a home, right? If it's not properly managed. And really, as we said, money is just like energy, like anything else. It is really important to kind of learn to manage money, right? So in the same way you would manage a relationship. You have to do it. You have to manage it. You have to be able to work with it in a way. But there's something, and I always think about the parable of the story about a rich person can't get through an eye and a needle as what a poor person can, and the only reason is it comes from the story in Jerusalem where there was just one door which you couldn't go through. You could only go through yourself rather than take your camel that was loaded, right? All it was to say that we need to be aware that that money is not, it does not define us. And we are the creators of the money, right? So I suppose what I'm trying to say here in this kind of situation is that when you're managing money, and with anyone, is why I think that if someone stays at home, whoever's the breadwinner needs to pay them a salary, not have it as a general budget. This is your salary. This is the general budget for the house, right? So that you've got these separations, which are very, very important. And I think if we have that, then you have a situation where someone will go, okay, we're putting, and someone may say, I'll give you this amount of money, it's your money, but we're going to put this amount of money in the pot together, right? So you can do that, and that would mean that the money that goes there is the hour. The other is you can go buy your clothes and things like that you want to separate. I think that it's really important also to have a budget, a ledger or something that makes people realize that everybody's putting in and where that money is going to. I think it's quite useful. It doesn't matter whether it's your personal money, but when it comes into shared money, it's pretty good to know where it's going. And I think that can also help with other things later on when you want to ask for more, or you need more, or you need to get focus where you want to put your money. But I think the thing is really about recognizing that money doesn't give us power in and of itself. The power is what comes from us, right? Our self-empowerment is what comes from us. So to be honest, money can be earned in many ways, and we can generate it. So the idea that someone's going to take advantage of us, that's just about we've given our power away. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. And we haven't put in the right kinds of steps to allow ourselves to take care of ourselves or to make it run efficiently in the way that it should. So yeah, I think that's it. For me, I think it is about our money. It's about our investment. It's about our future that needs to be created. And at the same time, recognizing that you may flow, one might be the breadwinner now, but that may change. Often that changes when someone gets pregnant, right? Often the breadwinner becomes, if someone's been looking after kids, if wife gets pregnant, often there's another shift that'll take place, and he may have to go back out to work, and he might be in the kind of job or section where he's not earning very much. So that might be another big constraint, and this is part of our world. But I think that if we really can recognize that money doesn't give us power, that the power comes from ourselves, then money will always follow in the way it needs to follow, and it will flow. So yeah, that's really where I was kind of moving towards as I started to think about what you were saying there, Carol Ann, and adding into that.
Yeah, I love when Carol Ann says she used to earn more money than her husband, and they were together for a very long time. She didn't have the ego, but she knew actually her relationship wasn't about paychecks. It was all about their identity, where they need to be, their goals, what they are aiming in that moment. So I think it's really, really important. We had a discussion with the Happy once, one of the Hope Spring talent introduction agency stylist, and I was like, this love thing business, it does not feel like it's about love anymore. It's about money. Because when people come to join the agency, if they're earning 200 grand, they will say to you, at least the person that you have to connect with me, they need to at least earn maybe 150, maybe 100 and something thousand pounds, so that we match. And I'm thinking, if someone is earning 100 grand, they're still earning enough. But it's love, man. I'm like, it's love. It means they're like professional. They still love. I'm thinking, when it's weighed through material, is it really about love? And then what happened when that money moves away? Will that love continue? But I love Carol Ann's story that she actually realized that when you spoke about it, it made me realize that love is rooted, is identity in purpose, not paychecks. Both you and your ex-husband knew that everything was anchored with self-worth in purpose and character, not income level, and which is really, really a beautiful thing. And also, Shireen, that you said um, people should not feel that they're being taken advantage of. It's all about when love aligns with what you're looking for and the circumstances changes, that person, they fall pregnant, because things is always changing. When I met my stepdad, he was earning lots of money, lots and lots and lots, but I've learned that life is spiritual. And as his stepchild, he welcomed me into his life, even though my mom did not earn as much as he did. If I say to him, go cough up, I need to go and buy this, he'll go and say, what are you willing to do for it? I'll say, I need to do this, I need to do that. Even planning for my future, he planned for my future. But then a few years later, he died. When he died, his money, the business in the family was scattered. I had to step in myself to take over, to look after my family. But then it made me realize that how we see life, we may weigh life as material, but life is spiritual. God always has a way of doing things that bringing people into our lives. So I'm speaking to every man and woman out there that when you meet someone, that person, God has put them as a purpose. There's a purpose for that person. So you may be earning less money, and that person through along the way, they might become a millionaire or they might become a billionaire and people looking that person down. So I always say to my clients, if you find a good woman that is educated, knows what they want, they earn the money they can provide, why not date that person? Why weighing it through, I'm earning 200, you got to bring another 200 to the table? I'm thinking it's no longer about love anymore.
Mhm.
So that's why as matchmakers, we fight for it, to make it about love, not about material. All the other matchmakers, they just go mad when a man comes in or a woman says, I'm earning this, or a 60-year-old is looking for a 20-year-old. It's like, you're looking for a woman to come and do modeling for you, not looking for a relationship. So we have to put them straight. But I hope I hope people, they do what feels right, not what the society tells them to do. Because what feels right is what aligns with God, and that stays for eternity.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying about where is the love in that, because all of a sudden it becomes about money. Well, where's the love? And that's what should be key and paramount in there. And actually, yeah, as I was saying, I did earn more than my ex-husband for a while, but things changed, and then eventually he got promotions. Because as I said to him, well, if you want to do something about it, you need to get promoted. And he'd never taken any exams at school. He left school, so he'd never sat exams. So or knew how to study. So I was supporting him in studying, and he got his sergeants. And then it took him, I think, he sat it 3 times, and but he got it. And then I said, right, go straight on to do your inspectors. It's like push. So he did, and he got it first time. And it meant that once he got those exams behind him, he could then apply for the promotion. And so even though he kept saying, oh, they'll never promote me, they'll never promote me, I kept saying, you never know. You just never know. And if you can't complain about what's going on, if you don't agree with something, you need to be up there where you can actually do something about it and have the conversations with the people that you need to. So yeah, he got up there, and so obviously, yeah, his money then it changed, the balance changed, but we still put it into the same pot. But what you think people need to think about is, what do you bring? What is it? What is the contribution that you bring to the relationship? What is it you bring to the table? It's not just finances, and so if somebody, if the woman is earning more, is there things that the husband can do, or the partner can do, that can take on extra responsibilities within the family or within that partnership, that relationship, that helps. It's a contribution. And so it isn't all about the financial contribution. There's, perhaps taking responsibility for the household logistics, what's going on, and talking about, planning that, looking after children. I know somebody who the husband has given up works because the wife earns a lot more, and it just made sense. And she loved working, and he was happy to stay home and look after the children, and so it just made sense for them, and they worked it, and they enjoy that partnership, because that is the partnership. So it is redefining it and recognizing, well, what contribution can you bring? Because very often the woman feels that they've got to do the work and look after the children and bring them up, and it is a huge weight on your shoulders if you think that's what you've got to do. So having part of that taken off your shoulders means you can focus on your work, but also focus on the family as well, and give time to the family. So it's allowing things to change, because they do change. And I love what you said, Nomsa, about keeping track. Was it, you said, wasn't it, keeping it ledger, or was it, no, Shireen?
I talked about keeping
That's
track.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, you talked about keeping a ledger. That is
A
really
ledger.
important.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that word. It's like, oh yes, keeping the accounts, keeping it in a book, in a ledger, so you can keep track. So there isn't, any sort of, well, where's the money going to? And you do it together. Because there were times, my ex-husband and I, where it was like, well, where's the money gone? So I'd have to sit down and I'd show him, how, where it gone. I used to keep the accounts, because he hadn't been taught how to. But eventually he started picking up, and he would take charge of some of it himself, so you can then see where the money has gone, and you then can't accuse someone of, well, you're spending all my money, because then that's where taking advantage comes in. So it is that sitting down. I think that's a really good suggestion there, Shireen. Keep account of it, a real close account together. And if one person's good at doing it, yeah, write it out, but then talk about it together. So, but certainly, yeah, where is the love? Where is the love? And what are you bringing to the table that can contribute, that can even outweigh actually the amount of money that comes in, Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so important that we think about what is our contribution, right? What are we bringing to that relationship is really important, because most of it is invaluable. And I think what's happened traditionally from women's perspective is that our contribution has been invaluable, and our value has always been equated to what is money, right? Sadly. And certainly in this world, we have done that. We have created value by money. So, my worth is this, right? My net worth is this. It's all about money, instead of my net worth is, oh, how many friends I've got, right? It could be our net worth might be something much, much more valuable. So yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. And also, mums are there 24/7. You don't pay anybody to be anywhere for 24/7. You try and get a carer. And how much does that cost you? And a mum is a perfect a carer that's there 24/7, no matter what. Even Nam said, you might be out, but you will still be answerable on the phone, right?
Yeah.
You're still there. One leg is always, or one part of you is always got to be available for your children, because that's the commitment you make, right?
Yeah.
And invariably that will fall on the one person that tends to be the soul, or the has the bigger care. And we know from an idea of reproductive fitness, mothers will tend to be the ones that will hold that stronger, just because. And reproductive fitness means that your length of time you can reproduce. Men can do that for a lifetime. Women, no, we stop, don't we, through the menopause. So yeah, it is, and so our investment in children is much stronger. And I think what I was thinking while you were talking, Nomsa, particularly, was the idea of people saying that they must earn at least a certain amount of money before they'll even think about their. And I'm wondering whether that's just maybe not about money, but an idea of where their educational level might be, or it gives an indication of what kind of their kinds of motivations, or what are they like, whether they're reading that bit into the information. The reason I thought about that was because I listened to an interview by Brad Pitt before he married Jennifer Aniston. And he kind of said something which was really interesting. He said, the chances are I will marry somebody that's in this world, because that's what I'm doing. I'm with this person. We're doing the same thing. We have a lot of commonalities and a lot of overlap with how we would work things, and we understand each other's work schedules and things like that. So there is something about that that might be tapping into this idea of someone saying someone needs to earn this amount of money. So it'd be useful to tease out what it is that they're really looking for, right? What is it that indicates about this human being, rather than the fact that they can earn money, but what is it about the indication, what they're thinking? And you said something about educational level, and I think that
Yeah, some
probably there
people,
is
yeah.
there, but there are other intrinsic traits that probably people are attributing to that level of finance, that level of and they're self-reflecting, right? It's a mirror of what their self-reflection is. So that was what was coming up for me when I was thinking about that. And actually, that when Brad Pitt said that, I thought, oh, yes, that makes sense. I understand that now,
Mm.
right? Whereas before I thought, Pretty Women, the story of Pretty Women. And hey, why can't you fall in love with someone that's got no money? I was quite young at the time. But actually, I just think that was quite, it is about really recognizing those intrinsic qualities, and how do we find them even in someone who doesn't have that amount of money? So how do we look differently, and seek differently, might be a different question to lean into. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because when sometimes you find people that will tell you they need to earn this money, and you said, okay, degree wise, if they have PhD, they want someone with PhD.
Mm,
Okay. What about masters? What about bachelor degree?
mm.
No. PhD, they have to have PhD. And sometimes
What about a
they
PhD of life, right?
Yes.
Just
don't
managing
start.
obstacles. This is a great
Mm.
PhD.
But then you find someone that has a PhD, they're a millionaire, and they tell you, no, sir, I need a wife. Just find me a good wife that understand uh my environment, my
They might want a
lifestyle.
trophy rather than a wife.
Yeah, yeah, not a gold digger. Just find me a good person, a good wife. But then you then as a matchmaker, you have to look at their lifestyle, and then you now have to find a woman that understands that lifestyle, like what Brad Pitt says, that obviously he's going to date someone who is that industry that understand where they're going. But the problem is with this, I like the way um uh was it Shireen, you said it's important to, when you enter a relationship, to have this question, what do I bring to the table?
Mm.
It's really, really, really important. And I met women, like sometimes I ask them, like they are at work, they're not working, they are housewives. And when I ask them, like, what do you do? They're like, I'm just a housewife. And I'm like, you're saying I'm just a housewife. Do you actually know being at home looking after the children, how hard that is?
And how valuable those children are, right?
How
Mm.
valuable it
You're
is?
looking after the precious jewels, for God's sake.
Yes. So I'm thinking, oh no,
Mm.
Sammy, at the moment, I'm just a housewife. I'm thinking, I work, I look after the kids, I look after the house, and you are telling me that you are just a wife? I'm like, that's
Mm.
That's hard work. Being at home, being a mom and looking after family is not just, it's a big responsibility. So I think people have to stop following everybody else and just look at the responsibilities. What does it mean when someone is at home? And I like it, Carol Ann, when you say someone, their husband had to stay at home, look after the kids. I think for me, when love is about love, not about material, I find it really educational in the society, in the community. And if there's those kind of couples, I like to speak to them because I think they're adding value to the community. No, turning love into material. Like nowadays, it's like money has to come fast in everything. Because I got to go to extravagant holidays. I got to put pictures on Facebook, you know. If my friend are doing it, I got to do it. So you got to earn money. You find that the husband is working 24/7, trying to live up to that lifestyle, right? It's depressing. Honestly, it's actually depressing.
Mm.
But at the same time, I love it when my clients comes in and they're like, you know, sir, I've worked hard for my life. I'm looking for someone who in the similar situation. It's either they've stopped working, they've retired, or they've not retired. They've got their own home. They're very comfortable, and they say, no, so I'm looking for someone who is in that stage where they've worked really hard and they are just in a stage where they just want to travel. I think it's nice when someone wants everything that aligns, but they don't put material first. And like, you know what I mean? I'm not looking for someone who have a similar amount that I have, but I need some common sense when you're matchmaking me. Find me somebody. And I love that because you look at their lifestyle and you look at the person that you bring, you ask yourself, what do they bring to the table? This is what they bring. And sometimes the children are older. You can't match someone who's got older kids with someone who's got younger kids. So obviously, they've raised their children. They want to travel around the world. So I think
Mm.
love should be love. What do you think, Kerwa
Yeah.
Ann?
Yes. Love. Because isn't that what brings you together? But
Yeah,
I love what you were saying about that person. It was actually a bit more clear about um who he wanted you to find. You know, someone that um I can't remember your words now. Had some common sense. That was it.
yeah,
And so there
correct.
was a bit more sort of clarity there because I sort of put a question mark about when that other person that said, find me a good wife. Well, what does a good wife look like for that person? Because a
Oh
good
yeah,
wife might not,
they
you
tell you
might
that.
find her
Yeah,
what you think
find
is a
me,
good wife, and it isn't
find
actually,
me. I think
it
you know.
needs to be defined. You need to actually say,
Yeah.
well, what is a good wife for you? What are the qualities that you're looking for? What is it
Or
that
they
you're,
know the qualities, but they've got to be a good wife. Not,
yeah,
you
but
know,
what
there are
makes a good
people
wife a good wife?
that is not
That's
looking for money in a relationship with, you know, nowadays there are women and men who enter
mhm.
a relationship with just looking for money.
Okay. And if that's the bottom line, that's what makes a wife a good wife. I think that's
So
a bit
I
shallow.
think what is say he will say find me a good wife, but he will tell you the traits that he's looking for,
Right.
what are his non-negotiable, what
Okay.
is he willing to
Yeah.
compromise, and
Hmm.
things like that. But they have to be a good wife. They got to be a good husband. So yeah, but not someone
Okay.
that wants them for what they have.
Yeah.
Because
I'm hearing that. So there is a little bit more
matchmaking,
definition as to
yeah,
what makes
matchmaking.
a good husband or a good wife. There is more sort of discussion around that because you know, what, as I said, what makes a good wife for someone isn't the same
Mm.
thing that
No,
makes a good wife for somebody else. So
yeah.
that's where you need to get clear. But I'm also hearing that there is that definite, they're not just looking for the money. It's really, for me, it's really somebody who wants to be with that person to get to know them. What's something deeper, a deeper soul connection, and is there for them through thick or thin and will support them. And it has to be both ways. They have to be a good husband. It's not just about the wife being a good wife. And it's being there for each other and being willing to understand what makes each other tick and being curious and interested in that other person. I think those really are key things for me, that makes a good wife and a good husband. You know, that that thing, for want of a better word. um, Okay, so I think it's recognized. You say what skills they've got, what how resourceful they are, what do they bring to the table. But I think something else that was said that came to mind when you're talking about it, somebody said that they're just a wife or just a housewife, and it's like there's that, I think there's that education that could go out there to realize actually what skills are developed in being just a housewife or just a wife. You know, what um what it takes to be a housewife, and everything that you bring and you do. And really there is some education there that I think is really important to bring out, because it isn't just about I'm just a wife. I'm just a housewife. And yeah, I know when I was in the beginning, it was like that's just I kept hearing that phrase, and then started realizing, well, there is more to it. You know, you're planning meals, you're juggling life, you're juggling. For me, it was juggling my ex-husband's shifts as well as the children and what they were doing, and buying food, doing meals, planning meals according for his shifts. And I would also make extra meals to put in the freezer. So when there was a shift that he was on, he could just get a meal out of the freezer, because I wouldn't be there when I was working. So there's all this juggling that's going on, and you have to manage money. You know, even if your husband just gives you so much for food, you have to budget that. So you learn budgeting skills. You know,
Yep.
there's a whole lot of things that go on. So yeah, I think that's something to really look at and discuss. And what a husband actually brings, it isn't just money. What are the tasks that they end up doing? I mean, things like putting out the dustbin or the bin bags, you know, depends what you're doing. But that was a job that my ex-husband always used to do. He'd put out the bin. We had a wheelie bin then. And it wasn't till we parted company that I sort of really appreciated, because it was just something I took for granted. He would do it, so I didn't think about it. I then had to think about it, and it was another thing I had to do. And there were a lot of things I realized that he contributed to, and I suddenly had to do. And I think it's really important. We didn't actually acknowledge those jobs that we brought and did. So spending time or creating time to sit down and acknowledge each other, what you've contributed to the relationship, the day-to-day living of living together and growing together. That is really important thing to do and acknowledge, I think. So there is here I've got provision isn't just financial. Emotional presence, integrity, and shared vision are priceless forms of wealth. And I love that. So, and another one is when we let go of outdated roles, we make room for relationships built on balance. So it's about finding a balance and, rebalancing up. So, yeah.
Nice quotes. I think what started me thinking about, what do we bring to the roles? I think it may be really powerful to just think, what are my gifts here? What are my gifts? So yes, my gift is I can navigate this, right? I can budget. Instead of thinking of it, this is what I'm providing, but go with the idea that it's coming from something generative. What is my gift? What is my uniqueness that I bring? Yes, maybe other people will also do the same things, but no, you're going to do it uniquely different from, you're going to look after your children uniquely different from someone else, because your children are all different and they have different needs. So you have the gift to be able to see each child, for example, and be able to manage looking after them so that they shine, or you can bring out the gifts in your husband. So I think it's really important to maybe not just think about what I bring, but the gift that you are. The gift that you are is the gifts that you bring. And just you being yourself is the biggest gift. So yeah, and recognizing that in a relationship, each of you are bringing your gift. And to, as you said, Carol Ann, to acknowledge our gifts. Yeah, to really sit and acknowledge them as for what they truly are. And yeah, so if we sit on, writing down in a sort of a what do I say? I'm just thinking like curriculum vitae or whatever. Just phrase those words. What are my gifts I'm bringing? It'll make you feel lighter. It'll make you feel brighter. It'll make you feel a lot happier. And that also is what helps the relationships, right? So what makes a good wife? What are the gifts a good wife brings? Right? What are the gifts you bring to a good wife? Right? Because you've got to bring good gifts, not money gifts necessarily. Yes, that's one gift. But there are other gifts, as you said, provision is more than money. It is about all those other things that are priceless. And we forget that in a system that is very much valued on money. We forget everything else. And actually, it's that everything else that actually makes everything work. Right?
Yeah.
Because the money is just created. That's it.
Yeah.
But it's our energy and it's our desires and our wants and the bits of what we bring our heart that makes that money possible.
Yeah, I love, Shireen, when you say we forget about everything else that comes with the relationship. And I think, like Carol Ann, you mentioned that when you split up with your husband, it was one, you started seeing the things, the little things that he did. And I'm sure he did the same, that these are the little things. Because I think we get so blinded by everything else, we forget this, the power of gratitude. I think it's really, really important. For me, when I started doing my fasting, my cleansing, what the first thing that came to my mind was I've been valuing other things, but there are these human beings that are in my life. What happens when these human beings are no longer with me on earth? So I need to value them more. And since that day, I stopped mourning and I stopped complaining. Yeah, when my children leave something, I tell them off, and sometimes, but sometimes I don't. I just have to, when they come into the house safe, I have to say, God, I'm so grateful. Anything else, I just stopped thinking about it. I stopped thinking about material. I stopped thinking it's just the power of gratitude and having that person, because I have watched people just slipping through, dying and stuff. And I'm like, now my soul is telling me to value what I have. And what I have is this soul that are with me. So I think sometimes we value other things. And I like you, Shireen, when you say the gift that we have, because that is a soul that has a gift. So you have to appreciate what does the person bring. And also, it was a Carol Ann, you said to make a room for relationship that balance everything. Everything is balance, everything in a relationship. I think it's really, really important when when two people meet to truly, truly, whatever they are meeting, whatever is making that person says, you know what, I want to be with you. I'd rather be with you, rather be somewhere else, to keep that mindset of the beginning to the end. Because sometimes we forget what joined us together, and we start valuing other things, we start following other things, we start looking at material. Material is good. But if, for me, if you were to give me millions than my family, I choose my family. Honestly, I choose my family because I've seen people who are lonely who don't have what I have. So that is the power of gratitude. So I think to me that is really, really important. When a wife finds a husband, value that husband. When a man finds that woman, value that woman. Because God is love. Like when Pastor Henry was talking, Carol, and he said, I might be a pastor, and you might look at me and say, I need a husband like Pastor Henry. I was like, I'm not perfect. Got my own mistakes that my wife sees. So I'm not perfect. So people seems to think there's this person that is perfect, but there isn't. It's just that 20% that is missing. If any relationship you enter, that 20% will never be fulfilled. That's where people make mistakes. They're like, I'm looking for a husband that can give me 100, but no, does not exist. They can have billions, millions, but they'll still have something that you can't stand about them.
And it's how do you then deal with that? Because
Yeah.
yeah, that quirk or that trait of that person might attract you in the beginning, but sometimes
Yeah.
it can then get a little bit, oh, I've heard that, or
I've heard
it's a
that
bit
joke once
monotonous.
too many.
Yeah, I've heard that story and oh God, it's changed again, but and so it can
Cringeworthy.
get a bit wearing. How do you then deal with that? It's like, yes, because it is going back to the base. Well, what drew you together?
Yeah.
And it's remembering that other people that you meet haven't heard that story or seen that. And these quirks are what makes this person. So what is it that makes it suddenly become oh, God's sake, not again. Look at that in yourself. And I think it's then clearing what has you feel that way. So
Mm.
that when you hear them say, every time you hear it, it's as if you heard it for the first time, because I think that's how you really need to or there's the best way to get into that sort of way of being. And it goes back also to something I heard that helped me think about that in that way when I started doing speaking and speaking about my story. And I remember thinking, oh God, I'm repeating it again. I'm repeating it again. And somebody who was a speaker, he said, yeah, I say it as if I'm saying it for the very first time,
Mm.
because those people out there, it's probably their first time,
Mm.
and it's only respectful to them that you come from that place. You forget you've said it before. You come afresh, and it's as if you are speaking it for the very first time. So that helped me to sort of think, oh, okay, and start picking up with speaking and saying, keep repeating, my story and developing it as it moved on. But I think bringing it to this other angle of listening to your partner repeating a story or repeating a joke or something, and just listen as if it's for the very first time and give them that respect and that, because that's what will help lighten the whole relationship and keep moving it forward, rather than making them wrong or thinking, oh, I've had enough of this, or, work on that, free that up and bring yourself to the situation, to the whatever is happening in that moment. And remember, why are you together? And maybe even have a conversation together and sort of acknowledge that's how you're feeling. And maybe perhaps they could not do it so much or be aware. I don't know, but it's about not making them wrong for it, but also just acknowledging how you're being around it, and that you want to come to it in a different way. So maybe ask them how it is. Maybe there's things that you do that they feel the same way, but they don't like to say. So have that refreshing conversation, lighten it, and then go for a walk, go for a swim, go somewhere together, and have fun. And then it's about being together. It's about being in the moment together, present to each other's gifts. And I love that's what you're saying, Shireen, the gifts that they actually bring. Who are you becoming? Who have you become because of each other? And that is something to sit in. How are you supporting each other, and who have you become because of them? So I love this one. Power in a relationship isn't measured by income, but by how well we uplift one another's purpose. So I think I'd like to leave our listeners with that quote.
And a beautiful quote it is. Yeah, I think.
Do you have anything, Shireen, you want to leave with our audience?
Well, I think that sums it. But I think I really think if we see ourselves and everybody else as the gift, and start looking more at that in essence, then money becomes something we don't really need to pay attention to. We see it as a natural course of the energetic field that exists. So that's really all that I love your quotes, Carol Ann. I love
Yes,
them
it's
so much,
beautiful,
particularly
isn't it?
about the provision and then how we creating balance by the way we're providing. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Women of quotes. I think we need to
Yeah, I
write a
love
quote
quotes.
book out. Have a list of quotes
Carol
that you've
Ann
got.
and Kamau, they love quotes.
Yeah.
For me, I'm just gonna leave this for men. Even when she earns more, a man can still lead spiritually, emotionally, strategically, and know that you are a builder, you are a protector and a cultivator. No one will ever take that away from you. So it's up to you as a man, how you see yourself, how you value yourself. A man is a protector, is a provider. A woman is a man that will protect them. If you find a woman that values money, maybe they're the wrong ones. But most women, they want it big. They want a big protector, cultivator, and a man with a big vision, So guys, if you're watching us from YouTube, please do subscribe to our channel, be part of the family, and any other social media, please do follow us and be part of the family as well. We have two groups, Unique Billionaire Mindset and Nkosi Talk Shows. Please do join those two groups and be part of the family. And if you want to connect with Carol Ann and Shireen, please do follow them, and you can send me a message or you can send them a message on Facebook. Please do message them and take that action. Or you can go to the website, is www.hseia.coach, and you can message whoever the speaker you want there through the form. God bless everyone and live with grace. Okay.